I just had to step away for a minute to just talk because I just feel so sick and I'm just really upset and I don't know what else to do except turn on a fucking camera. I'm sure I'll collect myself and explain everything at the end, but Cinder's really sick. She's not gonna make it. And I just really wish the universe would give me a break because I can't handle all this. And she doesn't deserve this. She's the sweetest, most loving dog. And she's just the best dog. And Evie loves her so much. She just deserves so much more life than this. It's just not fair. It's not fair. My baby doesn't deserve this. I can't do anything. It's not fair. She's not supposed to die this young. There's no proper way to intro this, so I'm just gonna kind of get into it. If anyone is curious, I did start a GoFundMe because this was a lot more money than I was anticipating. If anybody wants to donate, you're more than welcome to. You're not pressured to. You can also just visit the GoFundMe because I posted all the updates there from when we were finding stuff out. There's photos, there's up close things of the paperwork here. So if you guys just want to go and read everything and where my mindset was and the specific things that were done and the process of elimination and trying to figure things out and some more personal photos and stuff, you guys are more than welcome to just go visit the GoFundMe just to read and to see the photos. But it'll be the first link in the description. If you guys want to share it, I'm not pressuring anybody to donate. I'm just opening the floor up because I know people grieve in different ways and that it might help some people to see that information, or if they do want to donate, because it's a lot for me right now because I am unemployed still and I'm doing my best. Let me address me first to get it over with because this video is not even supposed to be about me, but I've been doing okay today. I haven't cried until I watched that footage that you guys just watched, and then I cried for a good bit and calmed down so I could film this because I feel like I need to film this sooner than later because there's a lot of people that loved this dog. Okay. There's a lot of people that love this dog, and I've come to realize the mass amount of people, because I've been posting like in all these dog pages and groups on Facebook to vent and to just let it out. I've gotten so many comments on those posts that people knew who she was from YouTube, and I also need to make this video because I know not everybody sees my Twitter and not everybody sees Cinder's Instagram and that not everybody sees the community posts that I do on my YouTube channel. So I knew I had to make this video so that everyone was aware of what's happened. It's gonna be a lot of information. It's gonna be really hard for some of the younger people to understand, and I'm gonna try to explain it in as best plain English that I can, because going through this whole process these past 5 days, oh my god, it hasn't even been a week, has been so hard to try and think of possibilities, options, recovery, and stuff like that when you can't understand half the things that you're being told. So I'm going to try and do this in plain English. I'm going to give a trigger warning that I'm going to be talking a lot about some medical things. I'm going to be talking about euthanasia, illness, lots of stuff to do with kidneys. So if you guys aren't comfortable with hearing that, then just be forewarned. I have all of Cinder's paperwork here, which is a lot for the past 5 days. To make sure that I say everything right, to make sure that I do the right terminology, and to make sure that I don't mess up. I'm really trying to be strong for this video, but the hardest part is that I feel like I'm telling like my kids that I did this. And that's what hurts the most. It's just not where I wanted to be in 2021, and I didn't expect this type of video, not necessarily the circumstances, but the topic, for another 7, 9, 11 years from now. I did not see this in my future for this year, and it sucks. Cinder had been getting sick in October, and we had no idea the correlation to that sickness to this, because they're definitely connected. And I blamed myself for that since we found out what was wrong. But looking back, because, you know, this stuff happens and you blame yourself and you look at all the possibilities and you question everything and you go through denial, and I think I was hardest on myself and I was most grieving during the process, because it was me by myself pretty much doing the phone calls, talking to the various vets, talking to the specialist, giving the okay for certain tests, making the decisions kind of impulsively, because, you know, you're on the phone, you're told they want to do this and this and this, and you got to give them the okay. I had my mom, I had my dad, but I didn't have Brandon, and it was our dog, so it was all me and my decisions, so that's why it was, like, really hard. But in October, Cinder started to go through phases where she would continuously vomit, and a normal type of vomit. It wasn't a projectile vomit, but she would go through phases where she would wake up in the middle of the night and she would start heaving and she'd throw up, and then 2 or 3 minutes and she'd start heaving and she'd throw up again, and then it'd be another 2 or 3 minutes and she'd start heaving and she'd throw up again. And it would either be just clear, it would be just stomach bile, and I didn't know why this was happening, and I never Googled it, because, you know, they say don't Google things, it's usually worse, so I never Googled it. But looking back, if I Googled it, I could have probably pinpointed this. But we had just gotten Evie in September, and so when we got Evie, we got a lot of different dog toys, a lot of like puppy toys that aren't necessarily as strong as the toys that Cinder has. So they would share toys, and Cinder would go through phases where she would rip apart something and she would digest something that she wasn't supposed to. And we would usually catch it too late, or, you know, we would catch it and throw away the toy. And around the time that she was doing that would be when she would be vomiting. And then she wouldn't eat. She would not eat her dog food at all during this period of the vomiting, but she showed interest and wanted human food. So we were doing like a low sodium gravy or a low sodium broth, and we were mixing that with her kibble, and then she would kind of eat her kibble, with that, or putting in like, you know, unseasoned boiled chicken and stuff in her food, and then she would eat that. So she was still eating, she just wasn't eating her kibble by itself like she's supposed to. And she's on a specific kibble formulated diet for her breed. So she would go through phases like that, and then she would go to the bathroom. We'd see her pass, you know, a toy or a piece of stuffing or a ribbon or something off of a toy. She would pass it in her stool, and then she would stop vomiting and she would be eating again. And it just always lined up that way. And when it started, I contacted my vet and said, you know, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. And it was always thought that it was just an upset stomach, because I would say like, well, I found this toy, I'm pretty sure she ate it. And then I would contact them and be like, yeah, she passed it, she's eating again, and she's okay. And that's where most of the conversation was, and it ended, you know. Nobody ever thought like, yo, there might be something else going on. And then she had an appointment in November, and I think it was for her vaccines. I can't remember exactly. And she was going through another phase where she was vomiting, so I told them. They didn't do any tests, but they examined her and they felt around and everything and said that they don't think that she had a blockage, because I always kept thinking, okay, something's stuck. Something's in her intestine and it's stuck. So that's where everybody's head was kind of at, and thinking like, you know, she can't just digest stuff. But she was never throwing up her kibble. She was never throwing up any food. But again, during the time that she was throwing up, she wasn't really eating. She was given some like antibiotics or something at the time for an upset stomach. And we were told some like over-the-counter like medicine doctor type of methods and things to do to get them to pass everything and like make her go to the bathroom and get everything out of her system and clear system. So that's the stuff that we were doing, because we kept thinking that this was that. And it never came across anyone's mind that it could be something else. I mean, I can't speak for her, I don't know, but she was never at the point where she was like traumatized or shocked or scared or in pain. She would just throw up. It would just be like a week long period or like a 5-day period, and then she'd be fine. She'd be back to normal, and she'd be running around playing, eating everything, and going to the bathroom okay, and you know, it was fine. Last week she got like really sick, and it wasn't just a normal throw up fit. And the reason why I'm even saying this is because I want to be transparent, and I know there's going to be some people in the comments that want to put like, oh, you should have known, you should have done this, you should have asked for this to be done, you should have done this. I was in contact with my vet, I was taking her to the vet, I was still giving her an antibiotic and giving her a medication. I was transparent and telling them everything that was going on, the symptoms, and connecting the dots to try and figure out why she was sick. So I did my best. I did my best at that time. And I don't want, and it's inevitable, but I don't want anybody to say that I didn't do everything and that there was something else that could be done. And we'll get into that. But she got really sick on Wednesday, I think, of last week. I don't know where my phone is, but this appointment is from the 22nd, so on the 20th, she got really sick, and she threw up a lot, and I mean like a lot, and it was really scary. So she threw up her stomach bile, like we had seen before. Okay. Also this year, something new that happened was she had a really big increase in thirst. And when she would eat, she would immediately after she ate drink and drink and drink and drink like she had never seen water before. And I thought, okay, that's a little weird. That's a new one. I don't know what's going on. She still had her appetite at the time that started, but it was like, what the hell? Like, why is she doing this? So that started the same week. So all the new symptoms started in a very short period of time. And that's when we sat back and we're like, there's something else going on. We're not catching something, and we need to find out what it is. So she got really sick on Wednesday, and she threw up a lot. She had, I think, 2 fits where she threw up the bile, and she started to throw up this very thick foam, and it was a lot, and I mean a lot of foam. And it was huge piles, and it was such a thick consistency, and I was like, what the fudge is going on? And then she threw up the water, and it was just water, and it was just, you know, like all of it, and it was all of it. I mean, like a gallon or more of water at a time, and she had done that, I think, 4 times that night. And I was like, yo, something's wrong. This is not normal. She's never been able to not hold her water. And now this foam, like, what the hell is going on? So I called her regular vet. I explained what was going on, and we scheduled for an appointment. They kind of like squeezed me in because they're really, really booked. So she went to her primary vet on the 22nd. And I took her in, and I said, I want a physical exam and I want x-rays, because I still was in the mindset that this was some sort of blockage or something. So they did the x-rays. They did 2 of her abdomen, which I'll show them up on the screen here. And then they did 1 of her chest, and they all looked to be clear. And then they gave her a Rena injection, which is an injection that you give so that way for 24 hours it controls their stomach so they don't vomit, because she had actually thrown up in the car, and she had never thrown up in the car before, but she threw up in the car. And that in that photo you can kind of see the consistency of her vomit and what we had been dealing with. So they gave her the Rena injection, and then they prescribed 3 antibiotics for the stomach. I don't know the names. I don't know how to pronounce these. Cefpodoxamine, clindamycin, ondansetron. The vet called and told me, you know, that they didn't see anything, that they didn't know what was going on, she didn't have a fever, and that she was acting completely normal, which she still was. She was running around, she was jumpy, she was happy, she was energetic. She just had lost her appetite, and she was vomiting a lot more, and she had an increase in thirst. So he gave me the option to do blood work, and then he also gave me the option to send the x-rays off to a professional radiologist that would examine them more closely and catch anything that they may miss. So I said, let's do the blood work, because that would eliminate more things or show off more things than an x-ray would. And then I said, if the blood work came back normal, then we would send the x-rays off and see if they could find something. So I was trying to process and figure things out. So my first vet total, which doesn't really matter, but I put there's a lot of money in this dog, because I was doing everything that I could humanely do possible to bring my dog home for my husband's sake, because that was like his best friend, and he would always say how she was gonna live forever and that she was never gonna die, and it was like our thing because she was the best dog. So I was doing everything I could above and beyond to bring her home for him and for his little brother, because that was his best friend too, and they loved her so much, and I didn't want to not bring her home to them, and they were my priority, and I wanted to keep them in mind and try to do what I think that they would want me to do. Just a regular vet visit to try and figure things out, it was $437.18. We got the blood work back. So this is the hematology, and everything was in the normal column. So I'm just going to fold over the personal information, but this is just the hematology paperwork, and everything was in the middle column, which meant that it was normal. The chemistry came in, and this is where everything was bad. These are most of the kidney values. I'm just now reading the sodium, and that's very concerning to me because, you know, we put her on a low sodium, low purine diet. So she was still high in sodium. But I don't know what these things stand for. I just know that she said it was the kidney levels. Anything that's red is bad. So this is the chemistry. So in these three, she was high. She was so high on these two that they're arrows because they're greater than the chart shows. And then the sodium was also a little high. And then the total protein and this albumin were low. So they were concerning because they were low. So my vet called and she said she got the blood work back, and I was, prepared to be told that it was fine. And then she said it was her kidneys. And I just immediately started to cry because I was like, I know that's bad because it's like one of the worst things that you can deal with when it comes to an animal. Two options. The first option, because my vet office is closed on the weekends, kind of. They're closed like every other Saturday, and they're closed on Sundays. So it was Saturday and she called and gave me the results. So the option was that I could schedule her for Monday at the vet office and drop her off in the morning. And she would be there the whole day, and they would pump her with IVs, monitor her, see if they could get her to eat, and they would redo her blood work. And then the other option was to take her straight to an animal ER and have them do the same thing, but you would be doing it sooner. And I knew the ER was more expensive, but I was like, I'm going to take her to an ER because you're really concerning me. And then when I got the blood work emailed to me and I saw it myself and saw how many categories she was like not passing in, I was like, I'm taking her to an ER right now. We took her to an ER in Cleveland. We had her hospitalized. The immediate thing with kidneys in dogs is the known treatment, the possible way to reverse it or to lower it and essentially give them more time, because when it's kidneys, it's like done for. But if you catch it soon enough, which you would have to like do it before they would show symptoms pretty much, you can potentially reverse it, but it depends on the kidney's condition, which I'm gonna get into that. I know I keep saying it. She was offered food, she declined the food. They did a urinalysis because at the bottom of the blood work here, it says the recommended next step is to complete a urinalysis. So right here, it already kind of gives you a summary of like what they're diagnosing her with from the blood work, and it said to do a urinalysis. So I took her to the ER and I said that I wanted to have that done. So she didn't have any bowel movements on her own at that ER, so they actually had to probe her to collect her urine, and her bladder was full. So they probed her, collected her urine. They said that that might have been because she was stressed out or nervous, which I think that's why, because she urinated fine once we brought her home. We were checking to see if there was any urinary stones or if she had a UTI or anything else like that that could be a potential factor thing going on. That would be affecting the kidneys, filtering things. So they did the urinalysis, everything came back fine. So they did the blood work after 24 hours. The vet called me, and once again, when the vet calls you, it's not good news. Levels and the bun levels were too high on her first blood work to be put on the meter. They went down a little bit, but he said that they didn't go down as much as they had hoped with the 24 hours, that they were still very concerning for him. This is her blood work from the ER. So you guys can see these two levels up here were still high. So he said that he was very concerned, the amount of times I heard that word over the weekend, to take her to a specialist and diagnose what exactly was going on with her kidneys, because there was no way to diagnose specifically what was going on unless we took her to a specialist. So they said that since she was at another ER, that they could transfer her from that ER to their facility, because they were also another kind of like a 24-hour service. They could transfer her, they have to call, say what's going on, transfer the records, and she would be seen as urgent by the specialist within 24 to 48 hours. And I said, okay, we're gonna do that. We had to pay a $1,000 deposit for the Cleveland, and then when we picked her up, we owed an additional $105.08. So then I went and got my mom and dad again, and we drove to Cleveland, and we picked her up, and then we drove her to Akron and dropped her off, and they took her as an inpatient transfer. And then they said that they had 2 urgent before her, and then they said if she wasn't seen the following day that she would be seen the next day. And the specialist saw her at 8:14 a.m. on Monday, and he told me what test he wanted to do. And I had spoken to just the regular vet Sunday night, and she said that they wanted to do a ultrasound, which I kept being told ultrasound, but my regular vet doesn't specialize in them or do the right kind for this situation. The specialist performed the ultrasound on Monday. There's a lot of stuff on here that says how much everything was. We're giving her a lot of injections, my poor baby. At her second visit, she was there the night of the 24th till the evening of the 25th. And this is everything that they did. I don't understand it. I don't know what this stuff means. That's better in this, but this is all the tests, injections, medication, everything for her. And the total for her at Akron was $1,750. This is where it's gonna get a little bit hard, but this is her assessment and her diagnosis, treatments, recommendations, medications. So he called me at 8:14, and he had the specialist, because he came in the morning, went over all of her records, went over what was going on. I had to again give him the rundown of what was going on. He said that he was worried it was acute on chronic kidney disease, that it was kidney failure, or that she had underdeveloped kidneys with the numbers that he was looking at. Really hard to read this. So as you guys saw from the 2 blood works, you saw the numbers and how I said that they got a little bit lower, but they weren't good. When she was with the vet office in Akron, her numbers went back up. So they got worse again. And it's all typed up here. The specialist typed it out for me. It says, I am concerned that Cinder has evidence of kidney failure. Unfortunately, her kidney failure has stopped responding to IV fluids. As such, her kidney values have worsened today compared to yesterday. There is also evidence for fluid retention, meaning that she's not excreting all the fluids that she is receiving. And she has extremely low protein levels. Cinder has low protein levels in her blood because her kidneys are losing a sufficient amount of protein. This condition is called protein losing nephropathy. Normally the kidneys filter protein and keep this protein in the blood, but Cinder's condition, she's spilling this protein over into her urine. There are numerous causes for kidney disease. It lists a bunch of things that I don't know what they mean. Age-related degeneration, he said that that wasn't it because she was only 2. That the kidneys had lost 2/3 of their function. It says at this stage your pet cannot concentrate urine adequately. Kidney failure is a further progression in severity. In her case, her kidneys have lost 3/4 of their function. Hallmark signs of kidney disease can include increased water loss because the kidneys cannot concentrate urine. In response, the body is stimulated to drink more to maintain hydration, which is shown in her increased interest in thirst. Additional signs include vomiting, nausea, and anorexia, not eating, and weight loss. I've never read this in full, so I'm like really not okay. Some acute cases of kidney disease can be treatable with aggressive IV fluids. However, this progressive disease is in a severe case and her body is not taking the fluids. It says the attempt to manage this disease would be doing a specific kidney diet with low protein levels, which doesn't make sense because I told them everything that I was feeding her. I went over the percentages on the phone, like I did everything. I went over the ingredients, literally her dog food and the 2 treats that she gets on a daily basis, and I went over all of the levels and they said that those were perfect. It says additional problems such as high blood pressure and anemia may be associated with kidney failure, and she had issues in the blood pressure. Oh, my baby. And then down here it says that the kidneys were on the lower size to the diminished in size. So her kidneys were the size of a puppy's. And he told me that he saw that from the ultrasound. They said that the small size in kidneys could be genetic. She was up to date on all her vaccines, but they wanted to test her for lepto. He told me that after he told me everything else, and I said, be honest with me. If we do the lepto test and it comes back positive, is that going to change anything else and make this a situation where she can be saved? And she'll be okay, and he said no. So I told him not to do it because it didn't matter. And down here it says that the long-term care, which they told me with where her levels were and how she looked, that if she took to this care, she would at most get a few weeks. So they said that you could do the fluid injection and that there'd be a medication to reduce the protein loss and to put her on a kidney diet. Those were the options, but none of those would reverse the fact that her kidneys were too small, and none of those would give her a long-term life. The fluids, he told me, that they were injecting had actually settled in her abdomen, and they had been settling in her lungs. It says on here to do the injections, but we know that if we continue to do the injections that we would just be worsening that, and she would be building up the fluid in her lungs and her abdomen if we continued to do that. So we decided not to do that because her body wasn't going to take it. And that's like the big thing that you do when it comes to the kidneys, is that you're supposed to pump them with the fluid, and you can do a daily injection at home, but her body was not taking the injection, and she had not eaten for any of the vets. They said that she was too far gone to qualify for a kidney transplant, and with a kidney transplant you obviously get put on a waiting list, and she probably wouldn't make it through the waiting list, and then with that you have to do a blood transfusion, and then obviously there's a lot more risk when it comes to animals. Same with humans, her body could reject the kidney. I said, so then are we talking euthanasia? He said that wouldn't be a bad idea because of how bad she was doing. So I decided to not pursue the options given, and I was going to take Cinder home to spend a day with her prior to euthanasia. And then they said if I decided to do the injections, to let them know and that they would fill them for me. The decision and best treatment for Cinder is to take her home for a short period of time prior to euthanasia on Wednesday, January 27th. And then it says, thank you for giving us the opportunity to help in the care of Cinder. I told my vet all of this, and my vet called and spoke with the specialist. And then the specialist was a little more upfront with my vet and said that she wasn't going to make it. She wasn't going to last that long. My vet said that she would encourage the euthanasia because of how much pain she was in, and then when we picked her up, she didn't look good. When we picked her up, she had all the fluid in her neck and in her snout, and she had it in her paws, and she had it hanging from her belly, and her eyes were really bad, and she just looked really, really bad. I contacted the breeder that we got her from and let him know so they can do the proper testing. Hopefully, I don't think that they will by the message that I got back, but that they would test the stud to see if he had any kidney problems, because the specialist said that it might be genetic because she had the underdeveloped kidneys. It just really sucks because she was only 2.5. So I tore myself up about this for a really long time, saying, you know, what if when she first threw up I rushed her to the vet and got blood work done? Like, could I have prevented all this? I had said that to the vet and the specialist. They were pretty upfront with me that even if I did find all this information out 3 months ago, that she would be in the condition that she is now, or that we could have lost her sooner because she would have been pumped with the fluids back then, and her body wouldn't have taken to it, and she would have that fluid resting in her abdomen and in her lungs and probably in other places if we had been doing the daily injections. So she would have got worse quicker. So I guess that's the light at the end of the tunnel in the situation of not catching this, because I blamed myself when I heard it was the kidneys, because I knew Dalmatians were high risk for kidneys. And then when they did the ultrasound and they saw the size of the kidneys, they figured that out, which no monitoring and diet or anything could undo that. So she was just born this way. Her life was planned out. If another family had taken her in and didn't monitor her diet as much as we did, she probably would have passed away sooner. If another family had her and never got her tested and just assumed, you know, she has an upset stomach once in a while, she would have been in a lot of pain and her life would have been dragged out in a really painful and horrific way. So you got to think about the positives, even though it's hard. But we did everything we could to try and bring her home and have her for 13 years like we planned. That just wasn't what was written out for her, and it's not our fault. We know it's not our fault. I know everybody's gonna say it's our fault, but it's not. And I know that she brought a lot of people joy, doing all that I could for her. Gave her the best life possible. Spoiled her. She had clothes, she had bandanas, she loved going for car rides, she would go get pup cups. We would take her to go play Pokemon. She was loved on the internet. She was a little viral dog. Such a good dog. She loved everybody. She never bit anybody. Not once. She didn't have a bad bone in her body. So there's going to be a video going up tomorrow that is going to be our last few days with Cinder. I decided to kind of document some of it. It's just going to be like unfiltered clips, no cheesy music. It's just what it is, because I think you guys deserve to be a part of that. So that's going to go up tomorrow if anybody's interested. And then once I have the stomach too, because it's harder looking at pictures and videos of when she was a baby and watching her grow up. It's a lot harder looking at those right now. But once I'm ready, there'll be like a memorial video. And I don't mean to drag it out. I'm not doing this for views or for whatever. It's just me trying to put out content with her like I should have been doing this whole time. And me encapsulating her memories for forever, for us and our family and our friends, and for you guys to look back on. I love you guys so much. Thank you for everybody that's shown support and remorse, and for everybody that's donated. I love you guys, and I'll be back to normal videos soon because I think I'm doing okay, but yeah, I love you guys.